In a recent video on how to organize any space, I mentioned that some people are naturally more organized than others, and some of us have to work harder to be more organized. Today, I want to share 10 things that I've done to become a more organized person. Tip number 1, know yourself. I first heard this concept from habits expert Gretchen Rubin when she talked about how self-discovery is the key to self-mastery. Knowing your strengths and weaknesses can allow you to help them work for you. For example, if you are not a morning person, don't try to make mornings be your most productive time. Figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you and go with it. For me, getting enough sleep is key to me being productive. As much as I love being productive, if I'm given the chance to burn the midnight oil to get something else done, it is so much better for me to go to bed and be more well-rested to start and take on the next day. Number 2, write things down. Relieve the burden on your brain and write it down. Whether that be on your phone or a piece of paper or having your phone make a note for you, take notes when you can. Say a friend or family member or coworker has told you about something important coming up. Don't task your brain with trying to remember that. Write it down. Chances are you'll forget. We all seem to think our memories are way better than what they actually are. Don't put that burden on your brain. Sometimes even the act of writing it down can help cement it into our brains even further. It's not a sign of weakness at all. When my husband and I were newly married, I was always surprised at how the gifts he gave me for Christmas and my birthday were always exactly what I wanted. I finally asked him about this, and he told me that anytime we were sitting around and I mentioned something that I liked or that I would like, or we were out in the store and I saw something cute or something that I wanted, he would covertly pull out his phone and write it down. He had a specific list dedicated to things that Jamie wants. Not only was this incredibly thoughtful and sweet of him, but for him, when birthdays and holidays rolled around and he needed a gift for me, he didn't have to scramble and figure out something that I may or may not like. Relieve the burden on your brain and write things down. Number 3, don't try to do it all. In today's busy world that is oversaturated with information and options, there seems to be this misconception circulating, and that is that you can have it all, you can do it all, and you can be it all. Everything that you spend time doing is time you can't spend doing something else. As Thoreau put it, the price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. As I've talked on this channel many times, my husband and I have spent the last couple of years trying to simplify our lives in any way that we can. We have realized when we say yes to everything, not only can it be stressful, but it also can leave us needlessly busy and leave us with less time for the things that really matter most, the things that we really want to be doing. We all have limited time, money, energy, etc. So being intentional with the things that we involve ourselves in allows us to build a more intentional life. I know for me, I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize my days were just made up of saying yes to anything and everything that came along. Quality over quantity is key here. Tip number 4, prioritize. As Stephen Covey is famous for saying, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. I think this is important for everyone, regardless of your station in life. Prioritizing was just as important for me in my career as it is now as a wife and mother. Obviously, the priorities look different, but setting out to do what is most important will allow you to take control of your day and not the other way around. Tip number 5, put good habits in place. Things like getting the right amount of rest, eating healthy, taking care of your body will always pay dividends, and it will help you be at your best. Good habits will help you be more efficient and will help take some of the sheer grit and willpower out of leading a more disciplined and organized life. Number 6, declutter. This seems to pop up on almost every list I make for success. And that is because when you have less stuff, you have less to do. When you have less to do, you have less to remember. You're able to be way more efficient and organized. Tip number 7, schedule. There's no right or wrong way to do this, and it looks different from person to person, but find a way to schedule that works for you. For me, I use my phone to schedule in appointments and a paper planner to schedule in my day-to-day tasks. For my husband, he lives and dies by his electronic calendar, and it would be pure torture if you made him use a paper one. Find out what works for you and run with it. Schedule in anything that you need to get done and schedule in goals as well. Tip number 8, learn how to manage your time. When I was in college, I learned a lot about time management, and one of the most impactful things that I remember learning was to utilize small pockets of time. How often do we have a few minutes in between things where we pull out our phones and aimlessly scroll? I'm just as guilty of this as the next person. If you were to add up the amount of time spent scrolling aimlessly under the guise of having just a few minutes in between things, I think we would all be very surprised at how much time that added up to be over the course of a day. I have recently begun keeping a running to-do list on my phone and pulling it out during these pockets of time. I've been trying to refer to it first to see if there's anything I can take care of. Maybe there's a phone call I need to make or text I need to send, but utilizing small pockets of time is a way to give yourself more time in a day. And also, this doesn't always mean that you have to be productive in those pockets of time. For example, when my oldest son was in kindergarten, I had a few minutes uninterrupted to myself in the car every day while I waited for him to finish. I began using this time to take some deep breaths. My Apple Watch was reminding me to take deep breaths at the time anyway, so I figured why not give it a try. Spending 1 to 2 minutes during that time taking deep breaths was a great reset to my day, and it was a better use of my time. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is utilizing pockets of time more intentionally. Reading a book, practicing mindfulness, or knocking a few things off your to-do list is a much better way to spend your time than aimlessly scrolling. Tip number 9, think ahead. Several years ago, I worked as a personal assistant. I was responsible for the calendaring and organizing of a business executive. No 2 days were exactly the same, and while I tried to do my job well, there always seemed to be things that would come up that I would think, I should have seen that coming. This would leave me feeling unorganized and scrambling. I started looking for patterns and things that he needed me to do. I finally decided the only way that I was going to get on top of this was to try and anticipate his next move. For example, whenever he went on a business trip, he would often ask me to collect his receipts so that he could be reimbursed. This would often include a rental car receipt that sometimes he would have for me and sometimes I'd have to track down. My job got exponentially easier once I decided that once I saw him back in the office from his trip, I was going to go ahead and track down that rental car receipt. Not only did I feel more on top of my job, but he was very impressed at how I always seemed to have things ready for him before he even had the chance to ask. Now, as a wife and mother, thinking ahead looks like meal planning. It looks like knowing everyone's schedule and what everyone has going on and when, so that I can be prepared for that. It looks like being on top of the laundry so everyone always has the clothes they need when they need it. And it also looks like knowing a holiday is coming up and preparing for it ahead of time instead of waiting for the last minute. Tip number 10, aim to be early. When I was working at this job I just referenced, I had to get to work in rush hour traffic. I wasn't a very patient driver, I drove a little bit faster than I should, and I often arrived at work flustered and in a bad mood. I realized then that running late was a cause for a lot of my grief. Once I decided to leave home even earlier, it changed everything. It wasn't a big deal if I didn't make the light before it turned yellow. It wasn't as annoying if I got stuck behind a slow driver. I was able to slow down and I arrived at work early and in a way better frame of mind. This is more true for me now as a mother than ever before. If we are down to the wire trying to get out the door to go somewhere, usually someone has forgotten their shoes or forgotten to brush their teeth or is going really slow and suddenly we're late. Aiming to be early allows for a margin of error and allows me to be in a way better frame of mind along the way. And as a bonus, if we do arrive early, I am able to take a minute to get myself situated and prepared for whatever situation I'm about to step into. I hope these were some helpful tips. I hope you got at least one takeaway of something that you're going to try to become a more organized person. Leave a comment below with something that you have done to become a more organized person. Thanks for watching, friends. Have a great day.